Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Yes, we can
wonderful.
hear you.
I
Yes, we
saw
can.
the messages on the side, so just gonna echo Happy Women's Day. It is great to see everybody taking some time out of their weekend to spend some time with some great panel discussions lined up, so I won't take too much of your time. I am trying to just take 1 minute to share my screen here, so
Yes.
bear with me.
So Shilpa is a seasoned leader with diverse experience spanning SaaS, AI engineering, and enabling global teams for large-scale digital transformation. As a director of SaaS transformation at Electa, she is partnered with product management, supply chain teams to drive strategic business innovation. With 15 years experience in operations, project management, she holds a business degree from Harvard University and a master's in biochemical engineering from Cornell University. A passion, a passionate advocate for women in supply chain, she has spoken at Harvard Entrepreneurship Society of anti of global conferences. Over to you, Shilpa ma'am.
Thank you for that introduction, and thank you to ISM-INDIA for having me. Like I said, I'm not going to take too much time. We have a great panel discussion lined up here, so I just wanted to share maybe my screen really quick here and go through some initial thoughts to sort of line up the tone. So give me 1 second here. Okay. So I think everyone is well aware the theme for this year is a give to gain. And when I was thinking about really what I wanted to speak about to set the tone for this year, um, I had to really give it what does that mean to me because it's a very open statement, as I imagine it is for many of you as well. And the first thing that obviously comes to mind from an enterprise perspective is the more you invest in something, the more it should theoretically drive your dividends. But I also think there's other elements to it, right? You give mentorship to your colleagues or to your teammates. That should further strengthen your teams and drive future growth in terms of efficiency and solidarity of driving towards a common vision. I also think of, especially when it comes to females, resilience and agility, right? In a geopolitical environment that we are currently, I think there's just so much uncertainty and so much changing in terms of just the environment around us that it really is about being resilient and agile enough and being able to prepare for that volatility that we can gain better efficiency down the road. I also think it is about, on a personal level, education and presence. And those two, what I mean by that is if we give time, our personal time, to be more educated on, the latest trends that are going on and the latest tools that we should have a better handling of, we should be able to gain not just for our personal gain, but also in terms of being able to contribute to our teams and to our enterprises. And the same goes for presence. I think this is probably something I'd echo regardless of what the theme may be for the year. But I think presence, in terms of whether it's in a team meeting or whether it's in any conversation, even personally, I'm sure we're all at least once a week having conversations about AI, right? So just being educated enough or having the presence to ask the right questions or have an opinion on it, I think is our first step to being able to give to gain, as well. So at the end of this, maybe something for you all to think about in terms of introspection of what it means to you and how you want to take action on it. But certainly these are the themes that I will talk about briefly here before we turn over. Um, so I want to think about just two figures as we think about this. One is certainly, like I said, AI is just taken off in terms of all conversations. I think we're all obsessed about it at this point. But it really is true. I mean, I've been in SaaS and AI for about 8 to 10 years now, but in terms of how people have really wanted to be part of that discussion, it really has just taken this trajectory. And 71% in terms of the latest figures of as of last month was that they are now on this path to adopting AI. It could be at a basic level in terms of ChatGPT, Copilot, or it could be actually using tools to optimize our schedules or to have, at least from a medtech field, we're already looking at robotic uses of this in a surgery. So there is obviously a huge spectrum of where AI can fit into, your strategy, but the fact that it's really fast paced and everybody needs to come on board with that is something I think we all need to figure out what is our plan of attack as an individual to attack that. And again, that 41% is, I think, a figure from 2023, but that is a significant amount of presence, I think, in the supply chain workforce that we as females have. So I think we have to think about how do we influence the strategy of that 71% of organizations. And either we're on that train or we're not. So I think this year really is about both, again, personal and professionally, think about how you contribute to that. So supply chain in specific, obviously, always has interesting things going on. But I think the six key areas that we as females can contribute to either the adoption of AI or to just the leadership of how we want to mold the strategy for the supply chain or for the enterprise itself is in these six key areas. I think inflammation and economic pressure is one that will always remain. So understanding that cost volatility is not going to go away. And I think that is something we all need to feel comfortable with. And I think females, more than anybody else, always have to have this. They do always have this ability to feel comfortable in chaos and multitasking chaos. So, and also have this sort of visionary thought in terms of how do we want to be more efficient in these areas, right? So, looking at past trends of cost data and driving action out of it. Geopolitical shifts is very real time for all of us, I think. And that is something that we need to think about in terms of our strategy, right? I think for several years we were thinking about supply chain in terms of a global supply chain and the complexities, but also the advantages of having one. But I think we're also in a time where we need to figure out what regional sufficiency looks like as well. So we should be looking at data. We should be looking at cultural nuances as well in terms of how do we influence our regional supply chain efficiency and really just protecting that. The sustainability and regulatory mandates, I think last year this was all about the change management aspect of it, of getting everybody on board with what does that mean? How does as an organization do we deal with that? It was more about the commitment to those mandates. And this year we really need to figure out how do we take action on it? What sort of metrics do we want to have in place that we can drive those? And then real-time data and connectivity and visibility. I mean, I think you guys have been hearing about IoT for the longest of times, right? And like I said, I've been in SaaS and AI long enough to know that this has been the theme for many, many years, where people just really want a better sense and grasp of the data that they can have. And as part of that, I think drives visibility. But what we're moving now to is that we have real-time data, but we have implemented sort of siloed systems across our organization. And I think for supply chain to be able to better handle some of the volatility and uncertainty that we talked about, we need to look at ways of how do we bring these legacy systems or these siloed systems into an integrated network to really drive the right type of visibility and the right type of actions. And accelerated AI and digital twin adoption. I'm not going to say much more about that than other than I'm sure you all have a vision of what you want in terms of how to implement or how you wish you would budget to implement that. And there's just so much going on. That's a chapter on its own. But what that does lead to is that with AI, with SaaS, you now have to think even more about cybersecurity. So what used to be an IT department function, we really have to think about how do we partner not just with our strategy team, but also with our IT team so that they understand how is our supply chain data more vulnerable, warehouse IoT data, whatever that set of data may be, we need to get them educated and be able to partner with them on what sort of tasks that do they need to consider. So that agenda now becomes more holistic in terms of an enterprise versus just supply chain versus just strategy or cybersecurity. So with that, I think for me, at least how I always think about things is uncertainty always leads to opportunity. And this year, I think more than previous years, we as females really have if we can understand how all of these trends that we just spoke about influence our organizations that we work for or that we're leading, it really can be not an uncertainty, but it can be an opportunity. And the four areas I think females really excel at, and I really want it to be about reinforcement here, is collaboration and relationship management. I think it's all we know. We have a way of knowing who to talk to about what. We have a very strong sense of emotional IQ. So I think we are better suited almost to be able to foster some of those cross-functional discussions like we just talked about, to optimize our strategies. And I think that's true not just within the organization that we're in, but also think about what kind of partnerships you can forge outside just in your general community of supply chain, right? Whether it's through webinars like this or conferences where you're networking with individuals outside of your day-to-day interaction, but also just mentorship as well. I really go back to that in terms of collaboration. The more people that you can lean on and foster a team, you're really going to be able to drive best practices and more efficiency within what you're trying to build. I also think we all really need to get comfortable with data, right? It's not just about Excel files anymore. It's about how fast can we turn around that data analysis to actually drive the actions. So again, last year was maybe more on that, how do we predict things? But this year, let's actually take action and take action with conviction, and be able to really stand our ground in terms of how we think we would leverage towards that. Risk management, I think there's so many examples, especially from the COVID time, where so many females in leadership stood up. The one that comes to mind personally is always Johnson and Johnson with the vaccines and how to really set up the supply chain in a world where nothing was really certain or supported, right? But they came through with blazing guns on that one, right? So I think females have this ability to really have a holistic view. And by having that, you can really set the vision and know what areas you really need to manage risk at, and speak up to those, right? We talked about presence in terms of having a voice at the table. Make sure you're calling out those risks early. I think there are some people that really want to just move fast. And I think by having those risks called out, we can really contribute to those discussions. Lastly, whether it's through AI, whether it's through the geopolitical environment discussions that we talked about, I really think this year is going to be about disrupting our model of workflow. And we personally already seeing it with restructuring our organization. So, for example, the organization that I'm with is moving from what used to be a global, sort of a traditional path of, management reports up to a global, and global will then take the decisions. We're now moving to more regional specific decision making. That should allow more faster decisions. That should allow more region specific efficiencies. And so I think we, again, are in a world where we need to think about how does that best optimize what we're looking to do for our teams, but also how do we support that, right? So again, with the visionary view, we should be able to think about what are the gaps to get us there, either based on the fact that we're going to shift to maybe a different organizational structure, but also how does that affect us in terms of educational gaps, right? Like I said, there's so much coming through at us, whether it's a wealth of data or a wealth of AI tools that are at our disposal, but we need to figure out how best to use them. For example, I think there's still so much that I've been using SaaS and AI tools for many, many years, but there still are new ones rapidly coming. And when I think of warehouse management, there is a lot of vendors that I met with recently at a conference last week that are dealing with optimization of routes. So how do you best get your inventory to your customers, especially for medtech, where it's large equipment that has imaging aspects to it, electronic and physics aspects to it. So any patient downtime is critical downtime. So we are looking at how best to optimize our workflow, and I'm starting to get up to speed on some of these tools and how to best code them in a way. So I encourage you to look at things like there's women communities out there, for example, one called Women Community AI, which is about looking at how to internally develop your own generative bots. And it's not a tool that's just going to educate you and then leave you to try it on your own. It really is a community of individuals that are in that space and can help you create your own and ask questions that you may not want to ask someone more seasoned. So I encourage you to find those communities where you can ask questions and build something in a safe environment to be better suited and be prepared for some of the disruption you will see. So I will leave you with one quote that is pretty much my mindset and how I drive things for myself, which is strive to be not to be a success, but rather to be of value. If you can be present, if you can be educated, and if you can be someone who's comfortable with making conviction-based actions and decisions, you are contributing to your organizations. You're also contributing to your personal environment, and that by default will lead to your success. So I all encourage you to think about, introspect about things that can get you to be of value in your teams, in your personal lives. Um, and with that, if there's gaps, how you want to address them. So thank you for that. And you have a very interesting keynote and moderator discussion lined up. So I won't hold you from that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shilpa ma'am, for such an insightful and inspiring keynote address. Second, ma'am. Now it is fixed, ma'am.
Yes,
It
you're
is.
good. You're good.
Introducing Ria. Captain Ria retired is a seasoned procurement and supply chain leader with 23 years of experience spanning solution design, pre-sales, and digital transformation across supply chain and procurement. As the head of solution design for sourcing and procurement services at Infosys (BPM), she specializes in crafting innovative, AI-driven procurement solutions that enhance cost efficiency, compliance, and sustainability for global clients. A former Indian captain, Ria managed complex logistics and supply chain operations, owning her expertise across supply chain, supplier management, and sourcing. Beyond her corporate role, she is also a food stylist, having reached the top 40 in MasterChef and have been announced for the first Miss Sikh India pageant. Her journey from the army to corporate leadership, resilience, adaptability, and excellence. Over to you, Ria ma'am.
Thank you, Shivi. And a very good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to all of you joining from various parts of the world. So today is indeed a very, very special day. It's Women's Day. So let me start by wishing you all a very happy International Women's Day to all the incredible women out here. And I also welcome you all to this interesting panel discussion that is going to take place. And I also am respectful of the time that you have taken because it's a Sunday. So truly respect that. So, coming to, I think, some of the very interesting points that were made by Shilpa, and I think women are increasingly shaping the future of procurement and supply chains, areas that are now sitting at the intersection of strategy, sustainability, risk management, and digital transformation. So, the theme of today's panel is Women Shaping the Future of Procurement and Supply Chains. And over the next 40 to 45 minutes, we will explore this through three discussion rounds, which will be followed by a fun rapid round and a few questions from the audiences. And with that, I think I would like to introduce the esteemed panelists for today's discussion. So let me start with Neha Khanna. So Neha Khanna Guglani, Shivi, can you help change the screen because it still shows my profile?
Yes.
Yes. So Neha Khanna Guglani is a seasoned procurement and supply chain leader with extensive expertise in strategic sourcing, category management, and sustainable procurement. She currently serves as Director, Category Sourcing, Procurement, and Sustainability Lead West Asia at JLL. She's driving ESG aligned sourcing strategies and responsible procurement across the region. With a strong track record in digital procurement transformation and third party risk management, Neha is recognized industry voice in vendor management, responsible sourcing, and building future ready supply chains. A very warm welcome to you, Neha. With
Thank you,
that,
Ria.
let me introduce the next panelist. This is Nilakshi Avhad. She's an accomplished supply chain and procurement professional with 17 years of experience across strategic sourcing, logistics management, inventory optimization, and supplier development. She's currently with Vigel Manufacturing Technologies, and she's responsible for driving cost efficiencies and performance transformation across complex business environments. Nilakshi is passionate about operational excellence and digital enablement, and she actively inspires professionals, especially women, to pursue impactful careers in procurement and supply chain through knowledge sharing and thought leadership. I welcome you, Nilakshi. And last but not the least, Sangeeta Patel is a highly experienced procurement leader. She's associated with a leading multilateral development bank, supporting complex, large scale infrastructure projects across multiple regions. She brings deep expertise in international procurement frameworks, contract management, and governance. Sangeeta is passionate about capacity building, advancing sustainable sourcing in public sector projects, and promoting best practices in procurement, particularly across emerging markets where resilient, accountable delivery is most important. So, welcome you, Sangeeta.
Thank you, Ria.
Fantastic. So I'm quite getting excited about this session. And as I said, this is across a set of rounds. And you will have questions, audiences, to ask towards the end of the session. And with that, let me jump straight into the first round, which is focused on procurement and supply chain as a career for women. And my first question, which is to Sangeeta, is that there is no straight academic pathway into procurement. How should women intentionally prepare for careers in sourcing and supply chain?
Thank you, Ria. And before I answer your question, I would like to greet all the participants who have joined from all parts of the world. So thank you for joining us. And back to Ria's question. Yes, Ria, unfortunately, there is no particular academic degree or academic field that is meant for procurement. And having said that, I would also like to say here that in spite of that, people from any background, be it economics, finance, commerce, arts, people from any background can actually take up procurement. If it is backed with good professional certificates, and we do fortunately have institutes like the ISM, the SIPs, and many other who promote these kind of professional certificates, which actually give us the opportunity to learn about procurement and the nuances of procurement, such as supply chain management, risk management, contract management, and so on. With these additional professional certificates or professional degrees under your belt, I think all of us can venture very confidently into the field of procurement. Once we have ventured into the field of procurement, I think we keep on adding to our learnings through, on-the-job experiences. We also get mentoring. So I feel that mentoring plays a very important role in this, particularly for women, because women somehow it is felt that procurement is a man's field. I don't know why is that, because I personally believe that women are better at handling procurement. We learn to procure from day one. We have good negotiation skills and so on. So I think it's a myth. I feel that women can definitely do better. All we need is the confidence to venture into this field. And like I said, any academic background is good as long as it is backed with certain professional certificates. And then, of course, the on-the-job learnings, some mentorship, yes, of course, that is always required. And also to use the basics that we all know about procurement into the field gives us more confidence to go forward. And in addition to that, another very important aspect that is always, which always paves the path for women is that the ability to rationalize, to see how things are moving, and also the networking. Once you're in this field, then networking is definitely very important. And with that, I think it definitely gives an opportunity to all women to move forward.
Sure.
So I'll stop here. Over to you,
Sure,
Ria.
Sangeeta, thank you. So I think that's a very interesting perspective, and I think most of us will agree here that none of us have very straightforward journeys or straight landing into procurement or supply chain. We all took different paths. Somebody comes in from an engineering background. I've seen people come from very different backgrounds, and they find themselves here. What I think I heard from you and what is important is that once you're in, You're looking at arming yourself with the right qualifications. You're arming yourself with an on-job excitement to learning, and also finding a mentoring for yourself that will help you go forward. And as I think we all agree that women definitely do a great job as procurement leaders. They, by virtue of their natural traits, they are, they're very good, empathetic in terms of negotiating. They always secure a good deal of, good deal for the company in terms of savings, as well as ensuring a 360-degree kind of win-win, including the suppliers. So I think some great points from you, Sangeeta. With that, I think I'd
Thank
like
you.
to also move to something a little slightly different, right? Because role itself is changing, and of course, what we discussed in terms of the digital becoming an all-pervasive requirement today. So my next question to Neha is that, Neha, you've been a part of various transformation projects, and in your view, and with your experience, whether across JLL or any other previous experiences, how are digital tools, analytics, and AI reshaping procurement skills, and what should women focus on to remain relevant and visible?
Okay, thank you, Ria, for the question. Happy Women's Day to all incredible women out there. Okay, so when we're talking about digital tools, analytics, and AI, I think they are fundamentally shifting the role of procurement. And why I say that, because in recent times, the procurement has shifted from a transactional function to a strategic or an insight driven function. And these digital tools are actually responsible for shaping the function like that. For example, there is a lot of automation of transactional work today: invoice matching, procure to pay solutions, AI generated RFPs, 3-bid modules, etc. So everything is shifting, the pattern is shifting to online, digital requirement. There is a lot of spend analytics which is happening, there is a lot of supplier analytics which is happening, there are a lot of contract management tools, vendor management tools around, and then AI. Even in JLL we have 50 AI agents, to be honest. Yeah, and then we have a tool called Azara AI, which is actually changing the way you take business decisions. So all in all, definitely there is a lot of shift when this digital transformation comes into picture. Now what is our role as leaders is to be more strategic. We should have a lot of data literacy, wherein we can actually comprehend that data which AI is throwing at us, and take wise business decisions. It can help us with a lot of strategic sourcing and business management. For example, AI tools can actually trigger that your contract with a vendor or supplier is exhausting. So all of this is very helpful, but at the end of the day, I mean, technology fluency is something which is going to be very important for everyone, not only for women. And collaboration, influence, and human intervention for strategic decision making will do a lot of work, or will have a lot of influence in the coming times. Talking about what women should focus on, procurement is they should actually build their data analytics, build their digital confidence. They should not shy away from, experimenting with the new AI courses that are in the market nowadays, or new tools which are in market nowadays. Or they should have more cross functional interactions, wherein they come across as like Sangeeta also said, that networking is very important, so they come out an influential business decision maker. So that is, I think, for women it's very important. And at the end of the day, yes, stakeholder management, that is integral for all of us. So that's what we should focus on.
Sure, Neha. And I think one thing we all agree, and some great points by you, in terms of starting from fixing the data and having the right set of data to be able to do the right AI prompts, and to be able to kind of have an interconnected or seamlessness across systems. I think that is very, very important. And I think from a women's standpoint, and especially, when I look at my, my work area, I think every client that I work with, there is an expectation to bring in AI-based transformation. So from that perspective, I think being digitally aware, not just aware, kind of finding your footing in terms of whether you want to be a data scientist along with a procurement person, you want to also venture out as a prompt engineer, or you want to just look at as a product, as a, as a specialist, looking at use cases which you can help with your, IT teams to build. So there is an immense possibility to learn as well as to grow together. But one thing is for sure, if you are not becoming digitally aware, you are somewhere kind of losing the opportunities that are going to come your way. So fantastic points from you, Neha. And with that, I think I want to broach another subject, and it's a slightly sensitive subject because typically all women, at some stage would have faced some kind of barriers in terms of how their careers have evolved. And I just wanted to check, from Nilakshi, on this, that Nilakshi, based on your journey, what is that one invisible barrier that women face in procurement or supply chain, and one mindset shift that has helped you to move forward?
Great question. Happy Women's Day to everyone. What I feel that one invisible women barrier is like not the capability, but the visibility of the capability, because the procurement happens quite often behind the scenes. As Neha and Sangeeta was also pointing out, that we negotiate the contract, we manage the supply chain risk, analyze the cost structures, and align the multiple internal teams, but outcome is not discussed in the boardroom. It's like the strategic thinking beyond those decisions is not always the visible, right? Recently I've come across McKinsey research where they have shared a very strong feedback about the executions and collaborations, but they are like less frequently recognized that for the strategic impact. So the challenge is really about the competence, or is it about the value for being a work visible, right? So this I learned through my experience that early in my career phases, I believe that the work is hard and delivering a results will speak itself. But the procurement operates in a very complex environment. A good negotiation is not about just the saving of monies, but it might protect from during supply chain disruptions, diversifying a risk, and also strengthening a long-term partnership. So the mindset that you are asking, that is what, it's not a simple, but it is a powerful, that we just don't have to deliver the result, but articulate an impact. So for example, previously I used to say that we negotiate a better supply chain contract, but if we say that XYZ agreement has secured the supply chain security, and it reduces the uh, cost volatility and protects our production during the disruptions, that's create a value. And suddenly the same work has been seen very differently. And today in the supply chain disruptions, it's becoming a more and more complex and very frequent as well. The leaders has recognized that the procurement plays a very large role into this. The world economy, as we are driving right now, so we are having a very great kind of uh, 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 a burden on our shoulder. It's not a burden, but it is like we are carrying a lot of responsibilities in the supply chain. So this is the invisible barrier. Sometimes it's a visibility, I believe, that minds needs to change somehow.
Great point there. And I think one thing which I think stood out for me is also about not just delivering the outcome, but to also network and engage, and also be able to talk about the work that we're doing, the value it brings, so that those things are also there. So I think on one side, women work very hard, but on the other, are we also as open to communicate about our work, to be able to show value in larger forums, in leadership forums? I think that is something that is great. So thanks, Nilakshi. With that, I think I'd like to shift gears a bit and talk about some of the unique strengths that each of you bring to the profession. And maybe let me start with Neha. And this is something, uh, the procurement is something, which is very much responsible to also ensure sustainability. And procurement organizations are typically seen as enablers for sustainability initiatives and targets for companies. So my question to you, Neha, is that how is sustainability practically embedded into procurement and sourcing decisions today?
Thank you, Ria. So I think sustainability in procurement nowadays has become a very integral part of the procurement process, and slowly and gradually it is just increasing day by day the involvement of responsible sourcing. So, giving example, like leading organization nowadays are embedding the supplier selection, contracting, the parameters on which they choose the suppliers, the cradle to gate journey of the suppliers, the carbon emissions, the performance evaluations. How are they managing their waste? How are they managing their water at the plant? What are the labor practices, not only environmental, but the SNG also? What are the modern slavery aspect the sellers are getting into? What are the compliance and human rights standards they are adhering to? So all of this is becoming very integral part of this whole scope of procurement. And especially if you see, the government of India has also put a mandate on the listed companies, wherein they are supposed to have an SBTI target and they have to publish their sustainability report. So, having said that, however, things are just gearing up, but they have not evolved yet. We are all in a journey because nobody is expert here, but we are all learning as we are, walking along the path of responsible procurement or sustainable procurement. But yeah, sometimes we tend to, incline more towards the E aspect, which is very common nowadays because the government is talking about it a lot, wherein they need you to calculate the carbon emissions, etc. So, but the SNG aspect is equally important, which is somehow not being taken, I would say, as not being taken in as focused manner as it should be, like a E part. So yeah, it's an evolving thing, and we all are learning into this journey. But yes, it is an integral part of the sourcing and procurement activities because it starts from there.
Fantastic, Neha. And if you could just maybe take 30 seconds to talk through some of the things that you're doing, in your organization to drive this.
Oh yeah. So we do a lot of while selecting the supplier, we have made it a part of the contract as well, wherein supplier has to declare their SBTI targets. What they have done is a science-based target if for on sustainability. Then we have a supplier risk maturity assessment. So in that we actually measure suppliers on 3 parameters, which is ESG, and there are other, like for example in E, what is the carbon emission, have they declared the target? In S, are they doing anything with respect to modern slavery trainings? What is the diversity ratio in their organization, etc.? And similarly in governance for the human rights, etc. So on those parameters, we give supplier a score, kind of established, developed, developing, or expert. So accordingly, because as I said, it's an evolving journey and it's a learning for all of us. Based on the scope of the seller, we handhold them to take them to the next level. So one is this we are doing. Apart from that, we are doing green cleaning study for the larger community of sellers, wherein whatever products they are selling with us or they're selling to our clients, what is the carbon emission, what is the carbon calculation, how can, because JLL itself has to reach net zero by 2030. So something carbon calculators we are creating, carbon emission calculators, and Lastly, we do a lot of modern slavery express training. We do a lot of human rights education. We take a lot of workshops, panel discussions to educate our sellers. So yeah, we are doing our bit, and I hope that this is gonna be a very, I would say, successful, a successful, outcome in terms of sustainability when it is with respect to the seller ecosystem. Yeah.
Great points, Neha, and some very practical applications of bringing in sustainability. And what I'm hearing is it's not just about the environment, but the social and the governance aspects have an equal impetus when you're driving ESG or sustainability related outcomes. So whether it is looking at green goods or green services, or you're looking at responsible sourcing, or you're looking at working more with diversity or businesses, women owned businesses, veterans, and some of the the other backward communities, as well as looking at the governance side of it. How do you bring it all together? How do you kind of keep a track of emissions? How are you kind of close to the targets that are set for ourselves in terms of carbon neutrality? So some great points there. I think with that, I'd also like to move to another very important area, which is, one of the toughest areas in procurement, which is negotiations. So, Nilakshi, I want to bring you in right now. And this is like more to talk through, women's prowess in terms of negotiations. So, what do you think? I mean, where do you see that women naturally excel in negotiations? And are there any areas where we still need to strengthen our capabilities?
That's a great and tough question as well, Ria. Let me start with simple question. How many actually has dreamed to become a supply chain manager when we are children? Can I see some reactions from the team?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be great to have some viewpoints from on the chat.
Yeah. Very few, right?
Yeah, but carry on. But do carry on. Do carry on.
Yeah. So today, actually, the supply chain is becoming a most strategic functions in the organizations. In many industries, actually, 50 to 80% of costs are influenced by the supply chain decisions, right? So, in many negotiations, capability directly affects the profitability and the resilience of the company. So, in this environment, actually, around us has changed very dramatically, and this change is like a very volatile as well. Trust me, the women's are having a sixth sense, which Neha was also talking about, and Shilpa has also coined it out somewhere in their discussions. The ability to sense that change and read the situations and proactively anticipate that, even before the numbers start appearing on your dashboard. That's where the women's are literally enjoying that sixth sense. And after the COVID pandemics, actually, the supply chains has moved from the operational discussions to the top agenda of the CEOs, and also in the government. So today's the negotiations are not happening, but it is shaping the world in terms of geopolitical shift, in terms of the trade has been changed, and the supply chain risk has been mirrored out. So negotiation today is no more longer like a price, but it is about the risk sharing, a reliable partnerships, and building a supply chain networks, and that can survive in the disruptions. So this is where actually women naturally bring some strong points on the table. In my experience, we can often and excel at the relationship based negotiations, where we trying to listen deeply, understand the other side constraints, and build a trust. And in the supply chain, the trust is incredible value, because the goal is not just to win for that particular situations, because we need a contract for a long term, right? A wonderful example that I could coin over here, that is 2011, where the earthquake and tsunami hits the Japan. And during this crisis, actually, Samsung Electronics recover supply chain really faster than the erection, because they have a very strong visibility and relationship. So when the disruption happens, it's no longer your contract, but it's your relationship matters for them. So the negotiations today is data driven. It's increased with the data driven, because we are dealing with a lot of large data sets, and that rise with the AI and advanced analytics. And women professionals can use this cost model, as Neha was also emphasizing on this. We can use the market intelligence for that, and predictive analysis for the negotiations. And one more thing, that is, the AI can process massive amount of supply chain data very quickly, but cannot replace the human judgment, right? And trust building, and understand the team dynamics which is going on into that very critical negotiations room. So the real advantage is coming by combining the both the ones, that women's strengths like empathy, trust building ability, and relationship, together with the data negotiations powers with the AI insights. That's built a great negotiations, I believe.
Fantastic. I think it's a heady combination, right? The skills are the natural traits that women bring, and then powered by AI insights, which helps you prepare well for the negotiations. By the way, some very interesting comment from Helen Juma on chat says that she's dreamed of being a supply chain management director, and her love for procurement supply chain started back when she was food store prefect and a student in charge of food stores, and she really loves supply chain management. So fantastic. Thanks, Helen. And we really hope that you are already there, or you're about working towards your dream. Let me now also, tip the ball a little bit in terms of public procurement. So we did speak about some of the other factors, but I think one thing which I want to understand from Sangeeta is that you're part of the public procurement setup. How do you see procurement as a governance, ethics, and a public trust function rather than just a buying function? I know Neha also spoke about it, Nilakshi also, that the value is not just limited to cost. So what are these other things, and how does compliances, audits, these things have a very important role to play?
Thank you, Neha, for that question. Procurement actually is a basis for an organization to decide how the money comes into the economy. And of course, ethics and governance play a big role in that. We all know that there is a perception in the market that procurement is the soil for corruption. It's very commonly said by anybody and everybody. However, at the same time, I would like to say that it is also perceived that women in procurement are more ethical. I guess by the virtue of the fact that we are mothers, sisters, spouses, rolled to one. So the role of women when it comes to ethics and governance is important. Procurement in general has a very vast impact on ethics and governance. And how do you enforce that? The best way to enforce that is to bring in good rules, procurement rules, of course, to have transparency and fairness when it comes to, say, the bidding process, the evaluation terms should be very clear, of course. And then after the contracts are signed, the contract management also is very important to make sure that it is very ethical and fair. Then comes the part of governance. Now, governance normally in public procurement is usually done by CAP. But however, every organization has the mandate to get their internal audits and external audits done. Normally, these audits are done by financial institutions, which are not very well programmed for procurement audits. So what I recommend personally is that special procurement audits be done of all the procurements that an organization undertakes. And these audit comments are then taken seriously by the organization, and then it goes forward. Going to the other dimension, procurement, as we all know, is a front line against corruption. We have to be very careful who we choose, how we choose, what are the rules, what governs. procurement basically is all about market accessibility. So we have to do a market survey before we go into the procurement function per se. Procurement and the organizational reputation is known by the procurement it does. If the procurement is done in the right manner, it gives the organization a certain reputation where the vendors are happy to come and work with that organization. Especially nowadays in the new bidding documents, like our friend said, Neha pointed out that there are documents and sustainability, and also the ENS is particularly a part of every good bid document these days. It clearly defines how the supplier is chosen, was the process fair, were the risks assessed, were the ethical standards there, the carbon footprint, the how the wastage is handled, and so on. These are things which actually prevent corruption. These are ethics that are followed, and also the governance is also taken care of all these things are built well into a bid document at the start of a procurement process. So this, I think, procurement in general, and particularly in public procurement, because we are using public money. When we are using public money, there is accountability. And accountability, of course, has to have ethics and governance. So in short, I think that a strategic procurement is basically one which has all the aspects taken care of and is well built in terms of integrity, is a steward of public resources, it has ethical supply chains, and of course, enabler of fair markets.
Fantastic. I think very important, and especially in today's world where we see a lot of these corruptions or frauds kind of come up, procurement frauds. I think I'd kind of not trying to say that women are more ethical or but I think it's more about, I think we have a natural instinct to follow processes, policies, and that's what kind of changes the game for us. And definitely in terms of, I think what I remember from my earlier days in British Council, I was working for a long time, for a short time there, and then before that in the army, where again these things are very, very important. I think clear processes, communication, adherence to policies are key to ensuring compliances and ethics, and to help in terms of prevention of any frauds or malpractices. Thanks, Sangeeta.
Absolutely.
So I think I'm also being cognizant of time. So my next round, I think I'll request the speakers to kind of restrict to a 30-second kind of an answer. These are quick questions, maybe articulate more in terms of the areas that you see are most relevant. So this is more about we spoke about your journeys, we spoke about skills and strengths, and let's talk about the future, both at an individual or an organizational level. So Neha, if any woman is in procurement, if you have to double down on just one capability over the next 5 years, what would that be?
So I think it is one capability would be understanding the data and getting the business intelligence while creating value addition of the data which you have received from AI, plus maintaining fantastic supplier relationships along with great networking and stakeholder management.
Great. Those were two, but yeah, you still within the time, so we are good. Nilakshi, do you want to add something here?
Yes, I definitely.
Yeah.
I strongly agree with Neha, but I would also like to add financial acumen, because supply chain decisions are deeply involved into all type of commercials, right? So every sourcing choice and every contract structure, every negotiations is actually translated into the cost margin protections and financial risk for the businesses. So it is interesting that the procurement is actually the best practice to develop that capabilities. I strongly believe that financial acumen will be the the best portion.
What a fantastic thought, Nilakshi, because I think traditionally, women were not seen to be very, have that financial acumen. But to see, strong leaders such as you, Neha, Sangeeta, Shilpa, all talk through some of that. I think very important to have an understanding of commercial modelings, understanding of the whole life costs, being able to break down the costs into its, granular elements. Very, very important to do that. Thanks for that, Nilakshi. A quick question to you, Sangeeta. What must companies or different organizations do or change if they want to have more women leading procurement and supply chain? So we have a lot of women in supply chain and procurement, but maybe not always in leadership positions, and that takes time. So what's your view here?
I think one of the main things that an organization can do is strengthen the entry pipeline, of course. And once the entry is done, then providing mentoring, providing courses, some professional courses, and encouraging them to go on. But more so, once a woman is in an organization in the same stream, I think mentoring would play a very important role, because that is where you give a push to the to women to move forward, and of course being equal and unprejudiced when it comes to higher level positions. That I think is very important, that an organization has to have it in their policies. And I think I can safely say that almost all the UN organizations and some other big corporates are very open to having women at any level. At the top, yes, we see a lot of women at the top today, and a lot of women in the procurement function who are leading. Of course, definitely with a lot of push and help from the organization, but also because of the experience and also because of the roles that they play. It actually gives them a push to come forward. And a position of procurement is basically a strategic function. And once the organization recognizes that the women plays a very important role in the in the procurement procedures, and they know all about how the market analysis is to be done and how the negotiations are to be done and all those things, I think there's no stopping any woman to go forward. Absolutely.
Great thoughts there, Sangeeta. So I think we're just 5 minutes left for the panel to finish, and I have the fun section coming up. So no explanations, only short answers, and this is going to be very interesting. So let me ask you only, Sangeeta. So if procurement was a movie, would it be Mission Impossible, The Hunger Games, or Fast and Furious?
Fast and Furious, of course.
All right. So quick question, Neha. So which superhero would make the best procurement leader? Iron Man, Captain America, or Batman?
I think Iron Man. It's a fun session.
Yeah, that's true. And Nilakshi, so what's the most dramatic phrase that you've heard in procurement meetings? Best and final price, let me check internally, or we need one more approval?
I think best in price.
Yeah, I know. That's and that keeps shifting, right? Where as women, as we kind of negotiate with suppliers, this keeps shifting. Okay, Sangeeta. So, which is the real love story in procurement? Procurement and Excel, or procurement or savings, or procurement and migraine tablets?
Procurement and savings.
Yeah, I mean, I would have probably chosen the migraine tablets. So, Neha, procurement professionals secretly feel like which character during negotiations? Is it Sherlock Holmes, or James Bond, or Doctor Strange?
I'll go with James Bond.
Good choice.
Yeah. Fantastic. And Nilakshi, maybe that's the last one for you. So which situation has often raised your blood pressure faster? Is it a supplier saying, trust me, or a last minute procurement approval for an event which is already run and decided by business, where they just want the procurement to just give a tick mark? or an email with a heading that says urgent contract renewal.
I think it's a second one, that is, the email comes to me for the
Yeah,
last part.
yeah, I know we all deal with that. So so yeah, I think that with that on that note, I think we have established that procurement does require strategy, a bit of learning, resilience, and definitely a good sense of humor, because we wear several hats. So with that, I think I'll open the floor for any questions from the audiences.
Thank you so much for the insightful discussion, ma'am. Now we would like to open the floor for our audience. If you have any questions, please free to ask, and our speakers will be happy to address them.
I think there's one question which is there from Komal in the chat, that she has 5 years of experience or career gap due to personal reasons and wants to restart her journey of procurement again. Nowadays, industry is moved on using AI tools, more and strong data analysis. Please recommend me a course for AI and data analysis for procurement profile, which use current industry tools and practices. I think there are a lot of things that I'm hearing here, but I think you can always look at least building your skills in terms of first of all analysis, being able to kind of look at data to be able to make sense of it. So some of those courses, at least building a solid understanding of Excel, using AI to draw insights. Nowadays you don't really need to do all the VLOOKUP. There are a lot of things that you can use, and AI agents can help you through Copilot. You can actually go and do that. Second thing, I think more than anything, if you have to use AI well, you have to look at being prompt engineers. We should know what to ask, right? The right questions to ask. And through that, a series of this, you'll be able to kind of look at some of the courses. And maybe I think in terms of specific courses, Shivi and the ISM team can come back and share in terms of, what are the very specific courses which are available. But I was just talking through some of mine, and if Neha, Sangeeta, Nilakshi, Shilpa, if you have any other courses to talk about.
See,
Yeah,
okay, go ahead.
I was going to say that if you're looking for some specifics that I personally use to sort of upskill myself, Woman Build AI, like I said, is a woman-based community where you can build your own agents or get help if you need to, or pose questions specifically to problem statements that you're trying to solve. I know ChatGPT has been there for a while, but if you really want to up it further for data-driven analysis, you could look at Cloud. Anthropic and Cloud have free online courses. They're actually for Women's Day today. Opened up for free build day, they call it. So you can actually dabble into cloud for free today. Also, a lot of courses are offered online for free. Caltech has one and Stanford has one that they offer monthly it's about a week long and it's free. So it's really just a time commitment again. But there are free resources out there for you to play around with, both in terms of tools, but also courses.
Fantastic, Shilpa. I think that's very, very helpful. And so I heard somebody else was also trying to speak. Was that you, Neha?
Yeah, I was just trying to add, I will echo with Shilpa what she said. There are a couple of courses which are free online. Even you can actually search on LinkedIn Learning also. You will get some of them which are free. What they actually want is your time commitment. Then there is Coursera, edX. They are all offering free courses in AI. So if you want, you can go there if you have that kind of time commitment available with you.
Great, great. Thank you for that, Neha. Any other questions? I think I see one from Rashmi Mahapatra. What is the benchmark strategy for above negotiations? Nilakshi, do you want to come in for this? Because you clearly are the negotiation expert here.
Can you repeat the question, please?
The question is, what is the benchmarking strategy for negotiations? I thought this was a more specific question, and it depends on a lot of what you are sourcing or what you are procuring, and not just a generic answer. But is there anything that you would want to say?
Right. So actually, it depends on situation to situations, and also it's like weighing your what you can say that you have to weigh where is your positions right now in that situation. Specifically, if the supplier is more sole or it's more techno savvy, then you have to deal indifferently. There are almost 64 levers that we can play into this negotiation strategy. You can go with the 80 Kearney model, where which kind of lever fits for that situations will definitely bring a more success value into that. The specifically, I would say that, first of all, you have to weigh, think logically. You have to understand the psychological effect before you enter into that negotiation zone. You have to understand the ZOPA and BATNA prior to meet into the deal, and then only you can able to crack the win-win situations. I would say that that plays a very important and vital role.
Fantastic. I think those are some of the things that you spoke about is very much basics, right? Understanding of those terms and being able to use that. And I think one of the things that I did when I got into into a corporate world was actually get into those kind of trainings to kind of build myself up. So I think highly encouraged. And of course, the strategy is more, or the lever for negotiation is more about what is it that you're trying to source or procure. And with that, looking at the market, looking at the preparation, and having a strategy in place would help. I hope that answers. I think there's a question, Neha, if you want to take, how do we measure sustainability targets in procurement?
Okay, how do we measure sustainability targets in procurement? Okay, so nowadays, according to our organization, we are doing many things, but the major things are, you can actually start with the scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 measuring, declaring your SBTI targets. Then in scope 3, which contributes to mostly 90% of carbon emissions for an organization, you can start the journey of calculating the carbon emissions from cradle to gate, if you can. So start somewhere. Maybe you will not be able to do it at day one. So that is one. Apart from how the waste management is happening, have commit to the SBTI, commit to the year when you will go net zero, and how you will go net zero. The process is very important, whether you are going to take carbon credits or are you going to reduce your scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. So that is important. How you are managing the waste, how you are managing the water, how you are managing the resources within your firm, and then maybe target setting for your suppliers, yourself, and that's how you can go on a measuring performance. Even in I would just like to add that even we have a integrity next tool within JLL, which we have introduced. It's a sustainability measuring tool. So what we do is, on the aspects of ESG, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 all combined, we ourselves as JLL, we put our performance there in terms of quantified way, and also we ask the suppliers to fill in. So suppliers may not be able to fill in everything right now, but at least they'll start from somewhere, and then you can handhold them and move forward. So I hope I'm able to answer your question.
Indeed, I think a very comprehensive answer that you have given. And I think somewhere one has to start from the target that you're trying to achieve. Setting small targets. I've seen some of the companies set major targets in terms of timelines for carbon neutrality. And based on that, your strategy gets impacted. And then the procurement strategy should tie up to that. And then it kind of gets distributed across either, working with sustainable suppliers to be able to also look at your scope 2, scope 1, scope 2 is still okay within control. Scope 3 is something beyond, it's your supply chain. So there you have to put in a little bit of effort. And of course, the other aspects which you mentioned, Neha, in terms of S and G, not just E. So yes, I think that's something to take back. So I think with that, I don't see any more questions on chat unless somebody wants to unmute themselves and ask a question.
So, madam, I have one question.
Go ahead.
So how will handle T1, L2, and T2, L1 vendor case? Suppose, what is the industry standard, the benchmark standard? how to handle this type of situation, real life situations.
When you talk about handling different tier, what I'm hearing, or maybe I need to understand the question very clearly. Are you talking about what tier of suppliers are you working with? Are you talking about strategic and core strategic and non-strategic suppliers? Or you're talking about your T1 is your core suppliers, and then there are suppliers that kind of feed into them. What is it that you're talking about? Is it your tier 2 means the suppliers to your supplier, or the other way around?
So, madam, there is technically T1 means technically sound. That means we are going with the technical. Suppose the user wants T1. Normally, T1 is recommended vendors. T2 is second preferable. But user wants T1, but the price of the T1 vendor is little higher in comparison to T2.
Yes.
So under that situation, what is the industry benchmark? As a procurement guy, what he take decision as organization, so that it will be the decision will be in favor of organization. That is the thing. So it is a very critical things I am observing the scenario. Uh, Suppose sometimes I have to go with T1 L2 vendors, but why? Why not we'll go with T2 L1 also?
So I think what I'm hearing is that there could be different ways of looking at it, and typically you would look at an L1, supplier with the lowest bid, and of course somebody who's a preferred supplier, we would like to go typically or traditionally in that direction. I don't think there is a benchmark which is available, which will apply in all situations globally. I think it is more about looking at a particular situation, looking at identifying where is the best value for money, and that is what the work of procurement is. And while you do that, you also have to look at other aspects. When I say value for money, it is not just in terms of the lowest bit, but it is in terms of the whole life cost. It is in terms of the risks associated with that particular vendor, financial risks, and all of that coverage has to be looked at. And then you have to look at which one to choose. And sometimes if you don't have a preferred supplier or a supplier that you think is giving more value, then you have to also kind of do a recheck, or you have to do a sense check of all your preferred suppliers, that you want to kind of bring in someone else or get somebody out. And these are, I think there's no one clear cut answer. And I'll also ask my colleagues, Sangeeta, Neha, anything that you have on this.
Ria, may I come in here and add
Yes.
something? So these days, I think use of rated criteria into the procurement process is a very good tool for getting value for money, because we have seen in the past that many a times the L1 bidder is not always the best option in terms of quality. So in order to ensure that you get good quality and also good price, I think use of rated criteria in our procurement procedures will be a great step to go forward. Thank you.
Great. And I think I also saw that the benchmark is also the historical data. Absolutely. I think in any situation or any procurement or sourcing, you definitely need to look at what is your history with that supplier, whether in terms of what we have procured, how well they have performed. I think definitely historical data plays a very important role, Palakara. I hope I'm taking your name correctly. So yes, absolutely. Thank you for your inputs.
Just adding to one more point, that is currently a geopolitical situations also plays a very important and vital role to to decide L1 and L2. Because just recently I heard a news that the petroleum products that we are going to sell to Europe has been diverted to Asia right now. It's based on some decisions that we are having some war situations over there, and we are getting a good bid from the Asian market. So everything has been diverted just within a 1 day of time. So that doesn't depends on everything at that situations, but it the matter of at the time of delivery as well, where we could have a better deal for that. So that's also one of the important aspects.
Sure. Thank you, Nilakshi. I'm also cognizant of the time. We are already 13 minutes over our schedule, and I still see a major chunk of people there. So I'm truly excited that people have chosen to stay on. But I think I'll hand over from here to Shivi and to ISM team to take it forward. But this was a great panel, and thank you so much for your participation. Over to you, Shivi.
Yes,
Thank you
thank
all.
you so much. Yes, thank you so much. Before we conclude, I would like to sincerely thank our esteemed speakers for sharing such a valuable insights with us today. Your experience and perspective truly made this session very meaningful. I would like to thank our wonderful audience for joining us and making this session so interactive and thoughtful.